by Year of the What from Jen Lieberman. Year of the What is a book, audio book written by Jen Lieberman. It's about a woman coming of age sexually. Because a year of promiscuity, discovering maybe the most important love of all, loving yourself. She's giving away an audiobook. A link will be in the episode description below. If you enter in, it's your newsletter, you are eligible to get a copy of the audiobook. That all said, welcome to this episode of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Panteloresco. I write stuff and podcasts too. Today, my guest is the one, the only, Johnny Kahn. How you doing, man?
What's up? How are we? Johnny Kahn here. Nice to see two handsome fellows on this streaming.
That's right. Two incredibly sexy beasts. That's what we're doing here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That's the theme of the show. So I met Johnny through a mutual friend of ours, right? So and I go, well, you want to come on the show? So Johnny, tell me a little bit about yourself, man. What makes you so awesome?
Well, I'm a very busy guy. I'm all about the strenuous life, like Theodore Roosevelt used to say. I'm all about working out. I'm very active in the local punk scene here. I noticed on your previous podcast that you've had authors on your show. I've actually published a book myself called The Way of the Tiger Man, The Strong Man's Manifesto. And that one's more geared towards my fellas, towards my dudes. It's more self-help. It's more like old school man advice. A lot of the old virtues.
Okay. Like today, it's interesting because if you look at like men, like self-help for men specifically, there isn't really a lot out there on that. Like virtues, things to go for. We live in an age where there's always a lot of talk about masculine toxicity, and not so much some of the actual virtues that come with some of the with some of the quote unquote strongman, cavemen, stuff like that come with it. For me, it's like I think the most interesting one, and I know some people are going to cringe when they say this, is when I hear it, is Jordan Peterson's kind of take on it, which is because his whole concept is like we all have good and bad qualities, and what makes really a good person isn't that inability to think bad thoughts. We all think bad thoughts. It's mastering ourselves and controlling those impulses in positive ways.
Embracing your shadow side. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jordan Peterson said, you can't be a hero and not be dangerous. You need to have courage. You need to have those values in order to be a hero. You got to confront your own shadow. And I think, I think that if you want to be, I think a good advice if you're trying to be more attractive also to women is to embrace your masculine side. I know it's taboo to say it, but a lot of people notice that after embracing the more masculine traits, they say they work out and they just throw that raw energy out there. I think it speaks for itself. But as far as on a self-help kind of attitude, I am all for pride. I actually say to embrace your ego because the whole world's going to try to beat it out of you. A lot of these self-help guys say that the world's a big giant shit test, and I think it's a big shit test. Nobody's going to tell you to embrace your masculinity. You just have to do it, because everybody's trying to beat it out of you.
Well, first off, Doris, how you doing? Doris is saying hi. So that's right. It's just Johnny, right? Here's the thing. So it's the first off, I don't necessarily think I don't think necessarily like having certain qualities are necessarily bad ones. I think one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that these traits are toxic. It's mastering those things. For example, I've noticed this with my dating life. The more confident I am, the more women respond to that confidence. Doesn't matter where I am on the social scale. Doesn't really fucking matter. If I say I'm the shit and I believe it, women respond. The more
Yes, sir.
honest I am about them, right. The more honest I am. I said this to an ex-girlfriend. It's like, you look incredibly sexy. And I just saw her reaction to it because it's legit. It was honest. There was no bullshit. It just the sheer. It elicited a very positive reaction. Right. Because a
Women
lot of
should
people are
test
getting.
you. Yeah, they should test you.
Yeah.
Women should test you.
Yeah. Absolutely. No. Totally.
I mean,
No.
but whether they know that they're doing it or not, they should test you. And rightfully, I mean, biologically, rightfully so. They're trying to see if you're strong enough. Like, if you can't, if you can't set boundaries within your own relationship, how are you going to set boundaries outside of the relationship and be the strong man that she wants?
Well, it's about respect, like one of the biggest things in life is self-respect. I think one of the things when you're younger, it's very easy to just go with the flow, which isn't necessarily the right thing to do. Sometimes you can't cooperate. It's actually not in your best interest to cooperate and go with the program. Sometimes you gotta kind of make your own stand and kind of just work on. You gotta be true to yourself. But that requires confidence. Like, no is a really, really simple word, but it takes balls to say it, right? Right, or lady bits to say it, depending on who it is. But we all have to have boundaries. Are healthy. Ego is healthy to a point. There is a point your ego will destroy you, right? You gotta be very, like, with your ego. You gotta be very careful with the fact that, okay, doing business, ego is super useful. Ego is incredibly useful. Ego pretty much goes like, okay, I'm worth this. You gotta get me to do this. This is what it's going to take for you to get me to do this. Well, we're only going to give you. You're only going to give me blue. Go on, sorry.
Right. No, it's cool, man. Yeah, there's a quote from The Godfather where Al Pacino says, "The higher I climb, the more crooked it becomes." I mean, if you're trying to reach a certain position in life, because I myself have reached for managerial positions. I'm not going to say for which company, but I noticed that the higher I climbed, the more nastier it becomes. People try to slander you, people try to defame you, people try to undermine you in so many ways. You can't. It's like also Robert Greene says, never outshine the master. You have to you have to adapt in certain ways as well. But if you're trying to go far in life, you do need to embrace that inner monster. And it's like you said, you do have to tame your ego to a certain point. It's also about being smart.
Well, it's more along the lines of the fact that, like, for example, okay, like me doing and negotiating a business deal, I definitely need my ego to go to a certain point. But I also have to be kind of like this too. It's like, they are only going to keep me if I'm useful, right? And you gotta recognize that with any job, doesn't matter who you are, what you do, they're only going to keep you if you're useful.
That's true.
And right, so you have to understand what your role in a company is. For example, some managers love it when you actually outshine them, because that's an area now they don't have to worry about. They're not worried about you. A good manager isn't worried about you being better than them at something, right? Bad managers are worried about you being better than them at something.
I've met both, I've met both. That's true. I would agree. I would say that for me, it was an evolution. When I first started out, I was a little bit more, insecure and kind of saying like, oh, they're trying to take over my position. But the more that I evolved, my style's more like, let them show you what they can do. Your employees or whatever. Let them surprise you. Now I'm more like a big pictures guy. I'm not really detail oriented. But you're right. For me, it was more an evolution. I was a little bit, yeah.
Well, it's normal, right? Because you're like, oh my God, they can do so much more than I. What the hell am I doing? When you get older, you realize you're not supposed to be able to do everything. That's not what you're here to do, right? As a manager, your job is to accomplish the job. That's really what your job is. Do you care how at the end of the day? Right? I don't give a shit. I'm very much like, hey, you got me this written piece of material I need to present. That's cool, right? How did you get it? I'm not going to ask that question. I don't care. It's
Right.
here, right? It's here, right? And a good manager will, this is the difference between good and bad managing. Good managers will almost never take credit for what they're doing. Almost never.
Mm-hmm.
Until it's time to actually like negotiate a better deal. That's when you bring that ego out. When you're a manager, you actually have to check your ego. A good one checks their ego a little bit at the door and lets the people around them make them look good. Because you're working as part of a team there.
Which kind of leads it to a whole other thing. Well, you and me, we're both guys, right? So we're both, it seems like we're both ambitious and we both understand the whole manager thing. I see that you have your own podcast. That's good. So you probably have a little bit of the entrepreneur in you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you said, you know, I've been in manager positions, but I think for me, the pinnacle as a man is to be self-employed, you know, and usually there's no winning. I mean, people don't usually see how good of a manager you were until you're gone. You know, sometimes your work just speaks for itself. You know, but I'm very impressed to see that you have your own podcast. So that means that the certain manager traits that you had also helped you get ahead in life. You know, it seems like you're like self motivated. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
that's good. You know.
Well, I just knew like even before like as crazy as things are getting right now, I knew there would come a point. There's a point in life that these jobs weren't going to be there anymore, right? Now, what's going on right now? I did not expect it to happen this way, but inevitably, I like you could see that this process, the process was going to come to a point that we all kind of had to make a choice of what kind of niche I want to get into. Well, for me, I've been interviewing people for 20 years. It's what I do. Like I did it for other people, and I'm doing it for me. Like you said, your episode 633. I've done a lot of these, right? So,
Yeah.
right. So I kind of look at it. I kind of look at it like this. At this point, I've been building and cultivating an audience for a long time now. I'm starting to see my numbers grow and
Little
keep
by
growing.
little, yeah.
Yeah, right. And so to the point where I'm actually getting sponsorships now on a somewhat regular basis. So now for me, it's like I still will be. I'm at that point where I still need to somewhat work for. I need a steady paycheck still a little bit, but I'm at that point in my life now where it's like I'm not going to be working for just anybody anymore or for any reason anymore. At this point in life, I'd rather starve. That's just being very honest about that.
Yeah, because you know the bullshit that comes with being a whore for hire. You know, excuse me for saying, working for somebody else. We're all whores, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Right now, I actually came off of doing Uber Eats for a while, and I'm actually enjoying it. You know, I'm doing that right now for some extra cash. But I'm just like you. You know, we're attracting sponsors, we're attracting investors. It seems like we're very alike. Maybe the whole world's going in that direction. You know,
COVID. It has
COVID.
been for a long time.
Yeah, COVID made a lot of people quit. People are working for Uber. They're being self-employed. You know, I think people are saying, it's good to be your own boss. You know.
Well, here's the thing. Technology. Okay, here's the thing. You're in California. I'm in Canada. We're talking like alright, like it's not quite the same. It'd be better, maybe better in person, obviously, face to face, eye contact, dirty jokes, probably hitting on some women along the way. Like we'd have more fun.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? The technology has made it to such a degree that for the most part, these really big, like if you really sit there and think about it, banks, governments, big business is an obsolete model. It's not necessary anymore. Now, it's going to go a lot quicker with everything going on right this minute because I just think civilization is going to probably burn for the next couple of years with the way we're doing things. But what's going to end up happening is people that kind of see what's happening right now is I can build something on my own. In fact, I'm going to build something on my own because it looks like participating in society as we know it is going to come with some prices that I'm not sure anyone wants to pay. So what's going to happen now is in places where governments can't go completely batshit crazy, right? Like your country, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But people are going to be quiet, like, you know what? I don't want to go work there. Let's work and make a deal together because I don't want to play this game anymore because this game looks stupid. And that's what's going to happen. Like the days of going to work for a standard job are done. They've been done for a long time, but this has crystallized it. Every job now is temporary. And that's just the way it is. It's now going from one job to the next job, to the next job, to the next job. And who are you working for? Me or am I working for me or am I working for you? If I'm working for you, how long am I working for you? Because we both know that relationship is not going to last forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, from a man's standpoint, I think a lot of things need to be overhauled. A lot of systems need to collapse. Kind of like the system of marriage. A lot of things have just been made impossible. That's why I am the way that I am, and that's why I wrote that book, The Way of the Tiger Man. I reread it myself a while back, and it seems very aggressive. But sometimes you need that energy to kind of push you out of your own comfort zone. A lot of it at that time, I was reading a lot of Ragnar Redbeard. What is it, Midas Right? I don't know if you've ever read it,
No, I
but
haven't actually.
it's inspired Anton LaVey, and it's a very dog eat dog world advice. And that's really the way of the world right now. I mean, if you see it as a giant shit test, it's that we have a lot of problems with depression. We take drugs and everything to numb ourselves, and I'm kind of saying, don't numb yourself. Why? e- Everything that you feel inside, particularly me as a man, I think you should embrace it. Because society's telling you one thing, but I think what men really need is to actually embrace that darker aspect on the inside.
Well, I think of football. Okay, like when we're talking about this is what I think. If you look at it like a football team, if you really sit there and think about it, it's young to grown ass men, depending on who they are, like taking out all those aggressions on a field in a disciplined, like cohesive way, right? It's violent, it's brutal, but it's also disciplined. It's also it teaches you about camaraderie, teamwork. You find a group of people you belong with. It like most like the movie I think about is Fight Club, like the movie Fight Club, because he talks about this like revolution thing kind of happening like in the movie. I'm talking specifically the movie now, not the book. The book, it goes into a lot deeper stuff. But one of the things about the movie and what it's basically said is you have a lot of men without a purpose, and that I think is a very big thing, because when you have a purpose, you have a tendency to do better in life. You have a clear direction of where you want to go. I think what tends to happen in this world today is, okay, I'm here. Now, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Right? And there's no magic instruction booklet for that. It's just, I'm here. What the fuck am I supposed to do? And here we are, right? And when in the movie, right, when he creates this system where people get those aggressions, get all those emotions out, but also he's quietly creating this revolution because people are looking for that cause, that belief, because deep down inside us, we all know this, in spite of everything all the gifts we have, we live in this is an artificial construct. It's an illusion. So once the illusion shatters, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is you were talking about football, but another avenue where men express this barbaric instinct or this tendency towards aggression or war is video games.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, us as a lot of us guys never reach our full potential because we're being virtual men. All of these instincts are going towards. We have them. We still have them, but we're using them like in video games, or sports are good because at least you exercise or whatever. But I feel like the man, what we tend toward is we're being more boxed in, being towards rules in the workplace, or or avenues like for aggressive men, for example, like movies, they're being more toned down or whatever. It seems like the world is shrinking for a man, you know. And me on my book, I just said everything you've learned, you need to throw it away. You need to go back to the basics. That's a real self-help book right there. You need to stop shying away from your own sexuality. Your own sexuality, your own shadow nature. Matter of fact, I don't know if you ever heard of Napoleon Hill. What
I
is it?
have.
Think and
Oh
Grow,
yeah.
right? He has this chapter where you sit down with some of your heroes. Like, I think for him it was Abraham Lincoln. Like, in your head, you sit down with some of your heroes. For me, I sit down with Napoleon. I sit down with Genghis Khan. But sometimes I sit down with myself, my shadow self. My shadow self tells me not to take shit from anybody. Everything that you've put away, everything about you that you're ashamed of, you need to confront in yourself. And that's called embracing your own shadow nature. Shadow nature was done by Carl Jung. An example of this is like Batman, for example. Batman embraces his own fear. He becomes a monster. Sometimes you need everything you don't like about yourself, you need to embrace that. You need to confront it. And sometimes I imagine myself sitting down with myself, my own shadow nature, and he tells me, Johnny Kahn, don't take shit from anybody. If they don't like you, fuck them.
Which we all come to that point. We all come to that point. Like there's a point when you're kind of scared to speak because you're afraid you're going to lose the friends you have. But then you realize at some point you got to realize that if you
It's
don't
very
speak your
liberating.
truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you don't speak your truth, you're not being honest to who you are, right? Right? You're not being 100% honest to who you are, and yeah, no, you gotta learn. Like, this is how life works. Like, you get to this in levels. The first level is, okay, I gotta be more honest with who I am with myself. Second part is who do I share that with? Because none of us work best alone. Third, and then the third part is, there just comes a point you just stop. You just realize that it's actually very simple, and that's, I am who I am. I'm not perfect. Hey, listen, there's always room for improvement. But at the end of the day, I am who I am, and I'm going to have to. I have to love who this is, because this is me, and I can only be me. That's all I'm built to be. And if you don't like it, fuck it. I got a place
Right.
to go. Right now.
And it's a very liberating thing. That's why MMA has been embraced. Really, when you get down to it, we still have that instinct. A lot of men are attracted to Jordan Peterson because everything that we're talking about, he basically says, but he says it in a more intellectual way. He says it in a way that's more easier to digest. And it's just like he said, um, a hero is not necessarily a man that's not dangerous. It takes a dangerous man to be a hero.
Oh no! It's embracing the qualities that make you dangerous. Like, you have to be okay. I remember this when I was living in Calgary. I remember my sister and I were walking down 17th Avenue. This was during like a parade kind of thing, and this guy walks up to her, and he's not. I could just tell, like, he wasn't good. Like, she was being charming and smiling, just engaging. I looked at him. So I already kind of made the decision to kill him. Like, that was already in my head. If he had gone a certain way, it just that instinct was there. I had already made a decision what I was going to do to this man, right?
Right.
But I was just going to wait and see what was going to happen with her, right? Because if she deals with it herself. I don't need to do anything. She dealt with it, and she looked at me afterwards. She's like, I had to do that because you and Dad have the same thing. It's like, it's just nature. Where we disagree, where me and her disagree, is I've lived in a world where I've seen that sometimes violence is necessary. I've seen that world. It's the last resort. It should not be ever be the first resort. But as a last resort, sometimes it's the only language sometimes some people understand, and you gotta be that's just part of the world. It's just the way it is, and to think in those terms, um, you have to think in those terms.
You know,
A person, I am more terrified of a person who can't think in those terms than someone,
right.
because they'll do worse shit than the guy that does think dangerously. Actually,
Oh, I've seen people in the higher echelons of like managerial position. Not me. I'm talking about somebody higher have very sociopathical traits, and I think this is true. That the higher you go, like CEOs have a certain sociopathic tendencies. Not that I'm judging them as wrong, because I actually tell you to embrace those. You know, I know it sounds like I know it sounds counterintuitive, or they're like, oh my God, Johnny Kahn, how could you? No, if you want to go high, you can't be a nice person. You know,
I'm going to disagree with that a little bit. You can be a nice person. In fact, some of them can be incredible. I've talked with some CEOs, people who are CEOs of companies, and they can be very absolutely. No, there's statistically in politics and corporate executives, absolutely. There is a certain get to the top aspect, but what I have found with people who are CEOs and stuff like that is they can be incredibly kind, civil people. It just depends on the circumstance, because you gotta understand what they have more to lose than you or I do, right? And what you got to realize is, right, what a lot of people don't realize is, as quickly as you rock, like you want human nature, you're on top, you want to stay there as long as you possibly can. It's nothing. It's not good or evil. That's just human nature. But what tends to happen is the people that get to this very crooked ladder at the very top, you're dealing with some crooked motherfuckers. So you're gonna have that aspect into you of, okay, I gotta be at least as bad as they are, because that's not just in corporate America. That's ghetto. Like that's in ghettos too. There are some incredibly tough people who actually are quite humane, kind, and nice, but the environment they're in doesn't let them express those things the same way. It's
that's
still
that
an
shadow
incorporation.
side. That's that
Yeah.
shadow side again. Sometimes your shadow side isn't that ugly. Sometimes the toughest guy, all you gotta do, your shadow is sometimes the softest part in you. You know, I realize that too. You know, I notice that you don't have to front all the time. Sometimes by showing your inner shadow, which is maybe your shadow might actually be feminine, and that's okay. You know, you gotta sometimes you do gotta express that, and it'll make you a more efficient leader, I think. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think the way that you went with it is really appropriate. You know, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you gotta understand, it's the environment you're in. Like you and me are just having a conversation. There's no whatever, right? Right. But let's say you and I were opponents, and so like we are both going for a job promotion or something like that. Both of us wouldn't be quite so nice to each other. But it's just the nature of that moment. Now, when the competition's over, right? When it's over. Move on.
Well,
Right?
you know,
Right?
yeah, I'm actually really prominent in the LA. I'm prominent somewhat in the punk scene, and some people say, "Oh, it's all about unity or whatever." I wish that were true, but no matter how united you try to be, you're always dealing with various factors. You're dealing with various personalities, various people that have their own agendas. It's like you said, it's never going to be peace 100%, because you're always going to deal with people that have their own. It's so many variables,
Oh,
so
sure.
many agendas. It's never going to be peaceful 100%. You have to be ready to go to war.
Well, no, that's just it. Like I'm like, I have a client I have to do an email with because they're not happy with something I've written for the moment. But there's some of it's me, but some of it's them too. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to take a stand on some things just because it needs to be done. On the other hand, right? I don't. But again, there's two parts to that. I have to own up to my shit too. I gotta be blunt about that. I gotta own up to my shit, right? Because again, you gotta be honest and direct. I fucked up here, but this is what I'm working with. So you gotta help me. You help me, brother, a little bit. What do you want, right? So that's the issue. Like you have to have that ability to. And also, ironically enough, sometimes the people you have to protect yourself from the most are your friends, right? That's the other ironic thing too, because they know you as a person. Oh, he'll just go with the flow. They'll just go with the flow. No, I will not necessarily go with the flow. I am your friend, but especially in business, this is business, right?
Yeah.
Right. This is business. This isn't. I'm not in the friend business. I am in the business of making money.
What did Gordon Gekko say? You want a friend? Get a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Men that are ambitious. Yeah.
Well, no, you can have friends, but there's a very clear line. We're hanging out. There's nothing on the line here. Money's involved. That changes everything. It literally changes everything. We can still be friends, but this is also why I do contracts with my friends.
That's good. No, I've done contracts with my own sister.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, a lot of people would say they're my friend. I could say I know a lot of people, but on a personal level, most of the days, my life's pretty. All I'm doing is just lifting. I'm living a very Spartan life, just lifting weights or trying to or going out there try to accumulate some kind of, money. Because make no mistake, life is a battlefield. Whether they want to make everything seem nice, that there's rules and safe, there are no safety nets for men, especially right now.
There's
Everything
no
you
rules.
say,
Period.
yeah, everything you say can and will be used against you, especially right now. Be careful. Everything you put on social media, it's still a battlefield. It still is. You want to have some, things stashed away. Yeah.
Well. At this point in my life, I just don't give a shit. I just don't. I just don't. If you're gonna judge me by my social media posts at this point in time, because I'm willing to talk, like right now, we're talking about vaccine passports. I think they're a fucking nightmare, and I think they're going to be the worst thing that's ever going to happen. Now, some people are some people are going to be like, well, we need this. No. This is going to be a shit show. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is going to be a giant shit show, right? Possibly, depending on what country you're in, a meat grinder. It is not going to go well. I can already see this. So I'm speaking out now, because if I don't speak out now, I may not get that opportunity later. And if that condemns me from certain jobs, so be it. I don't want to work with you anyway.
Same way, brother. Same way.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm not really worried about social media right now.
Pick your poison. It's really about pick your own poison. I mean, this is our hard time right here, do you want to die by the, it's choose your poison. What way do you want to die? It seems like we're fucked either way. It's just unfortunate that we have to put some quote unquote friendships on the line just because you don't have the same opinion,
Oh, you can have, like, here's the thing. I've had civilized conversations with people who like are on different sides of this, but it's few and far between. There is a zealotry, almost like a cult, a pseudo cult aspect to this that I haven't seen. My grandfather lived in Nazi Germany. Some of the things I'm hearing from our, like, does not fill me with confidence right now. So I am entering kind of in this like point in my life, because I don't know where things are going to go or how they're going to go, but I do know that I do know where, yeah, I do know this. The good news is the vaccine pass won't last long. The bad news is it's going to be wide. And so it's one of those situations where I'm looking at it and I'm seeing it and going, this is going to be shit for the next few years until we realize this. If we realize this, if you've seen what's going on in Australia, that's terrifying. But that is a, how do I put this? How do I word this? That's a hot topic. If I go out there and say my piece, some people, I did it. I got disowned by like 2 dozen people on Facebook about 2 weeks ago because I pointed out some things. But on the same token, I can have a civilized discussion about it. I'm doing that too. There are people who are open to talking and figuring shit out as well.
I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing. If those relationships were on rocky ground, they were probably gonna go.
Oh yeah,
They probably weren't your friends anyways. Just like a girl, if you think your girl's cheating on you, or she was gonna cheat on you anyways. Same principle. I wouldn't even hold on to it. You know, you
no,
want to
that's
have.
it.
Yeah, yeah. You seem like a smart man. So you want people that can spar with you, you know, intellectually. You want people that won't just unfriend you on just a whim. Those are the smartest people. Well, I think we need to go back to thinkers like Aristotle, Plato. We need to think back like that. You know, we need to have open debate and not bust our heads open over it. You know,
Well,
I
that's
think we should.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, no, that's because again, there can be compromise. Like we can figure out compromises that way. But the reality of the situation, right, is this is yeah, Doris. I get it, like there's going to be, but I get why you're not a joiner. What I have found in life though is you do need a group of people you can trust, and that's not always, and that's maybe the hardest thing about life is you have to realize that no matter how capable you are, you can't do everything on your own. You do need good people in your life, whoever they are. I just think with what's going on, um, it's it was going this way anyway. We were going to kind of fracture. It could have been a lot more peaceful than what this is going to be. But again, people choose. People are making the choices they're making, and so you gotta prepare, and you gotta find, like I said, find yourself a good group of people. That you gotta find yourself that football team. You gotta find yourself that sparring partner. You gotta find yourself that workout buddy that's going to be with you through thick and thin, because that's what's going to matter in the long run.
right. Yeah. But anyways, it all goes back to why we strive on being on our own, having our own financial outlets or whatever. That's, you know, I think a lot of people are, they don't even they don't know, consciously know it, but subconsciously, I think that's why a lot of people rather be self-employed for the security of it. You know, I think that's why a lot of people don't even know that they're opting out of social media. You know, did you watch Black Mirror by any chance?
I am not cool enough for television.
Oh, okay.
I'm not cool enough.
Okay, all right. But basically, there was an episode on the whole social currency thing. Me, I don't, you know, the likes. I find that the more friends that I lose because of the out of the off the wall shit that I post, I'm happy, man. You know, it's like you said, you've reached an age where you don't give a shit. It's very liberating
It
to
doesn't
live that
matter.
way.
Well,
It's very
yeah.
liberating for a man to lose everything and to find his metal that way. You know, I think it speaks volumes to people more than just going with the crowd.
Well, again, this is the inevitability. The crowd has never been so. Mark Twain said this: if you find yourself on the side of the majority, you need to pause and reflect on your choices. So he's actually saying there's usually the majority is wrong, right? Right, and it's something that has always kind of been in my head since I was a kid. Um, my favorite thinkers historically, I love C.S. Lewis. I'm a big C.S. Lewis guy. I love how he thinks about the world. I love and one of the things that like he doesn't, this kind of thinking we're doing right now is not something he would recommend. But we're what I am hoping, this is my sincere hope for this time. This idea, right? This idea that these ideas that we're doing now, we're re-exploring, have existed before. They've been here before. I'm hoping when this is over, we expunge some of these ideas and some ways of how we're doing things.
Let's keep it real. Social media causes us to be closer to people that we wouldn't have 30, 40 years ago. It's true. 30, 40 years ago, if we didn't agree with each other, we probably just nod at each other at the table during the Super Bowl or something. Social media kind of changed that. And in a way, I always said that social media is a collective underbelly of the human psyche. It's like the shadow aspect of the human psyche in a form, because you see the worst of human nature on the internet sometimes,
Mhm.
you know, and it's all energy. Negative post, people we don't agree with, it's all negative energy. That's why I just try to be out and about as much as possible,
Mhm.
but yeah, maybe we haven't seen it yet, but maybe it's a failed social experiment. I'm not trying to be cynical, but
So there's a game series I love to play when I play video games. But one of them is called Persona. And the thing about Persona, you have a persona to fight against shadows. And it's these old dungeons. So the second game I played is called Persona 4. The whole idea was the villain in that created this like window so people can desire to observe and that desire to be seen, and explored that in the concept of a video game. It's got like this Scooby Doo esque like overpinning, but you look underneath, it's exploring the concept of embracing your shadow self, the self deceptions that we put on ourselves, and furthermore, how everyone else thinks of everyone, and how that by and large is an illusion in of itself. Because the whole theme of it is I'm trying to seek the truth. Well, to do that, and the way this game's designed, to seek the truth means you have to explore certain paths the right way, and there's a very specific path to get there. So, all that to say that I think what the social media has become is that it's that window into the world that we can see, but we also all are playing off that desire to be seen, right? And strictly from a business level, you're a punk rock, you're a big punk rock guy. You want to be booked for shows, do DJs, whatever the event's gonna be, right?
right.
Right. So you're using social media to go, hey, I'm out there and I'm awesome. That's why you're on this podcast, right? At the same time, you're seeing everything around you, and it's very easy with social media just to focus on the ugly side, right? And I mean, right now, I and right now especially, it's easy to be angry. This is the first time in my entire history of using social media I've been angry because I'm seeing what's going on in the world and I'm getting pissed off, and that's I think a normal reaction to this time. But um, how do I put this? But that all said, I also realize too, there's still so much more going on in the world I'm not seeing right now as well, and there's still good or great things happening. I'm just maybe I'll never see it necessarily here. I have to
Right.
go out there and find it.
Right. Yeah, I apologize if my comments were, yeah,
No,
maybe like
don't
those.
apologize. You're being yourself.
No, yeah, but I meant, I think what I meant to say was like the social, I mean, I appreciate the business that you get on the internet and everything. I appreciate the business end of it, the exchange of ideas, but like there's also another side, like the dark psyche of it, and we probably don't even realize how dark it is because there's a part of it that eats away at you little by little. It's kind of corrosive. Like, man, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that all these little negative posts or whatever maybe add up to something. All I know
Oh
is
no,
that yeah,
yeah, I get where you're coming from. That's why I stopped watching television years ago. I
that's what it
hated how
is. Yeah,
television. Yeah, you're right. I hated how television made me feel. Especially my grandmother. When my grandmother, she watches the news all the time.
oh,
Because
that'll do it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know why. I really don't know why, because it's just like if you watch the news, it is one of the most elusive fictions you'll ever struck. Again, it's a window into the world. You want to be informed of what's going on, but you're never going to get that on television.
bad
Ever.
news sells. It sells.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
I was watching a 9/11 documentary. You remember after 9/11, a lot of us just spent like months just looking at the footage. It's still, yeah,
I didn't.
just looking at that footage. Yeah.
Well, no, that's just it. Here's the thing, right? They inputted this idea way back. Some of the same ideas that were inputted back in 9/11 are being used today, right? Some of that, right? And if you look at other crises, the housing crisis, all these other quote unquote crises, it was the same thing. We had some of the same imagery, the same style. And what I found was when I walked away from television, I'm not cool enough to watch shows, keep up with shows anymore. I don't have time. But at the same token, like for me, my outlook became more positive. My outlook became a lot more open and enlightened. And now that I'm not thinking like anybody else, I can ask my own questions. Social media is a little harder because you still social media is more interactive. That's the interesting thing about social media. Unlike television, is very much a one-way kind of.
Or Netflix. Yeah, or Netflix. I don't. Yeah. At least with Netflix, you don't have the commercials. Because a smart guy like you realize how manipulative programming can be. Maybe that's why you opted out of television. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I used to mute commercials for a good while. I just mute commercials because I don't want to hear it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're right. Media is more interactive, or whatever, or even Netflix. It's more interactive.
Yeah, like more like we're at that era. So here's the thing. Like on Facebook, I put motivations every day. People like them, people hate them. I know a lot of people do read them. I'm surprised how many people read my motivations. I've been doing them since this podcast went in Aurora. So what I've noticed with people and stuff like that is I can impact people in a very positive way, and I've used social media throughout this time to do that with many different people. But again, I'm using it that way. But what I also noticed too is that people tend to get caught up in like anything else, it's media. You're still getting hit with whatever you're getting hit with, and you're reacting to it. And what I don't like about social media, it's much easier to stir up fear and create kind of like this herd mentality of this is the way it is. If you don't like it, you're this, and this. It's easier to do that on social media than it even was to do on television. Because on television, you go to work, you could talk to your buddies. You still would have that to some degree, right? The thing about television back in like the 80s and 90s was we didn't know what else the fuck was going on in the world because all we had was this stupid thing.
Right.
The internet changed that. That's the good thing about the internet. The bad thing about the internet is if you put the right information out, people will buy a story and not necessarily the truth. And if enough people buy the story, you create kind of these like group mentalities about like the left, right.
Well,
right.
You know what's interesting? We're too fragmented. Yeah. You don't got your 13 channels anymore. We got 100,000 channels. You don't know who your neighbor is. I don't know who my neighbors are. All right, let's say I go to Mexico, right? You only got 2 channels on TV, so we're kind of like the same mentality. But over here in America, you don't know who your neighbors are because it's so fragmented. There's no common thread. Well, I'm sorry, I'm from America. There's no common thread to unite us all. We're 100,000 people. There's different flavors of liberal, and there's 100 flavors of conservative for you.
But I think that's actually cool. But your uniting thread, like really, here's the uniting thread for us all. Most of us just want to do our thing and be left the fuck alone. Like if you really break right down, that's what we all got in common. Now, what that thing is different for everybody. And I think that's what makes life cool. But at the same token, you break it all down, dude. You just want to work out and just rock out. That's what you want to do. And really, do you give a shit what anybody else does? Probably not. Right? And that's not a bad thing. That's just right. You're doing your thing. You'll find people you love that are doing the same things you are, and that's cool. Right?
You know, my criticism is what do you call it? People that use unity as a front. Like they want they want us to be all together or whatever. But that's bullshit. They just want you to be together with their idea of unity, and sometimes your idea of being an individual doesn't vibe with their sense of unity. You know,
Yeah.
although that's why the people that I've talked to that say, oh, we should all be together, as much as I would like to say yes, it's never going to be that way because we're so different. There's always going to be people that have their own agendas. There's always going to be people that are more manipulative than others, and it's like you said, probably the only common thread is we all want to be left the fuck alone.
Pretty much. We all just want to do our thing, whatever that thing is. I
Right,
really don't care who's in charge. It sounds too much like fucking work.
right.
Right? To me, I don't care. What I care about is, okay, I'm writing books. I get to talk to people like you. Maybe tell the occasional dirty joke. Maybe hit on people like Doris who's still listening. Right? That's it.
You're
Not
offended, my
enough.
friend.
What?
We were talking. You're offended.
No. God
We
no.
were. No,
I
I mean,
don't. I.
no, I mean the passport thing, right? I mean, because it's imposing on our sense of individuality, and it's true. I don't know exactly what's going on in your country about the whole what is it, passport thing, right? But
What
in
do
a
you
way,
got?
I agree with you because now I think we've been so laid back that they're forcing things on us.
Well. Here's the thing. Like Russia broke the passport in 3 weeks. They broke it because they wouldn't cooperate at all. You guys have a shot because you guys openly mistrust your government. I don't think they can actually. I don't. And as more information keeps coming out about the vaccine, you guys are becoming less and less trustworthy about it. Even the guys that have taken it already are kind of like, I don't necessarily want that third shot, right? Or that fourth shot, like,
Yeah.
or that who knows how many shots there are, right? God only knows,
I
right?
know some people are exiting the chat right now, but
Well, that's like that's the issue. A
but
lot of
yeah,
us are
yeah.
seeing, right? Right. A lot of us are seeing. So what's going to happen? So some people are going to be like, "I'm for this," and I go, "Are you really sure you're for this?" But that's not. Again, that's neither here nor there. Here's what's here or there, right? The reality of the situation in Canada. This is in Canada right now. 3 provinces are going to be adopting a vaccine passport, right? The Ontario one's lighter than the other two. One province has no exceptions, including people who can't have the vaccine. So I'm going to be very curious what that's going to be like in about 2 weeks. The other one was already a passport in place, is already mass protesting. So,
Right.
right, because they know it doesn't stop there. And then there's everybody else, and people are like, "Oh, this is a wonderful idea," and even ignoring the science stuff right now, right? I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, this is what this is going to do is it's going to fragment everything even further. What's going to happen is, okay, this is what's going to happen. Any state that puts in the vaccine passport, which is California, New York, right? Not the same thing, Doris. Your vaccine for school was used for 2 things: for school and also for like going to your doctor to make sure what shots you had. It has never been used for work. It has never been used. It has never been used for work. It has never been used for not for in travel in your country or basic human rights. It's never been used that way ever before. That's right. But that also it's not the same in principle for that alone. The other part though is this. The other part though is this. Nurses and firemen are being required to have this shot. So this is what's going to happen. They're going to quit. A lot of them are going. Even if only a third of them quit, that's going to strain your system even more. Cops are fighting this all over. They're going to quit.
My
right?
background, my 9 to 5 as well. They're being forced to, and I think it all goes back to the same argument, basically the same thing we were talking about. In this day and age, you want to strive to be self-sufficient. You want to be right up here. You want to work on your own business. Buy my book, The Way of the Tiger Man, The Strong Man's Manifesto, on Amazon.
I'm just gonna say one last thing, and then we'll move past this. Like
Yeah.
this is going to, in the short term at least, be very damaging because a lot of people aren't going to cooperate with that either. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
I'm looking at this, and it's just like there's just going to come a point people are just going to say nope, and we'll see where it goes from there.
it's the fall of the Roman Empire again.
Oh yeah, no, it is.
And we could talk about that if you want. I love the Roman Empire, but that's what it is. You know, we lost our way. I no, I'm not trying to be cynical, but just you got to be on it. You know, just as if we're all strong individually, we'll all be strong collectively.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. I think, well, like I said, something like big picture, government as we know it, business as we know it, banking as we know it, is all obsolete.
Yeah.
As we know it today. And I think what's happened, what this is, honestly, it's a adjustment of the fact that we have to change. We were going to be changing regardless. Now, the part where I wish we weren't doing it this way because it didn't have to be this violent. It's going to be violent, I think, before it's all said and done.
What happened the last days of the Roman Empire? You had inept leaders. The financial institutions just kept on inflating money. The coins, the golden coins, were getting thinner and thinner. Mismanagement of money here in the West. The welfare system's broken. EDD's broken. The leaderships. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what happened. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you know your history, you know what happened the last days of the Western Empire. What do you call it? Everything that made us secure, ambitious, it has been taken away here in the West. You already know what's going to happen.
Oh, I do. It's just a question of when now, not if. It's when. As long as we go, it's one of the it's one of those things where I just look at it and go, I'm very sad to see history repeat itself. But at some, I mean, I always knew. I remember in high school, we studied Rome. I took the ancient civilizations class. We studied Rome. I wrote a paper to my teacher comparing Rome to Canada and the United States. This is in 1998.
Beautiful.
And his comment when I compared them was like interesting and scary because I actually showed the parallels between our culture then versus their culture towards the end of their time. And ever since then, I've known I would probably live and see the end of civilization as I know it. I wish I'd had a little more time. I was just getting stuff.
I was always curious. I was. I saw the whole History Channel history on Rome. Wow, it blew me away. I had no idea with what is it when Oda Acer deposed the last. You know, if you follow history, you understand why certain things can't go the way that they do. If you understand the way Constantinople fell, you'll understand a lot of things too. You know.
Yeah, like I look at how one of the other signs is all over is Afghanistan. It's happening in Afghanistan right now.
Oh yeah.
Taliban, the U.S. withdrew to basically transfer power over from the U.S. to China. Right, the Taliban is being funded by China. So, what that tells you is there's a transfer of powers going on in the world right now as well, and you can kind of see that we're coming to the end of this age, whatever you want to call it.
The supremacy.
Yep, that's where we're at, and that's what this is. That's a big again. There's a lot of ways it could have gone, and that's what makes me sad. It didn't have to be this way, but it's what everybody wants. It's where everybody seems to want to go, and so you can only
I wish we could all be friends, but it's never gonna be that way. You're always gonna have one.
We don't have to be friends. We just
no, I mean like China, America. I wish we could all sing kumbaya and hold hands, but it's never gonna be that way. Someone's always gonna have a knife behind their back, and that's what China's doing, by the way.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, when it comes right down to it, what it comes right down to is things are changing, and things have been changing for a long time. And I mean, I'm not looking forward to the next couple of years, but we'll I cross my heart, hope cross everything that it all works out well.
you know what's going to happen. If you saw the fall of Rome, you know what's going to happen. And you know, it's it's interesting how that all transpired. That's why I can appreciate, even if you don't believe in Christianity, you can appreciate the way that kind of put everything together after Rome fell. Really, the only thing that held everything together was a belief right there in that part of Europe. Um, but I know, yeah, you seem like you know your history. You know what's gonna happen. You already know.
Yeah, you can see it. Like you can see it coming. Like this isn't the idea people think it is, and that's kind of how that's how I describe it to people. But this is something that a lot of people are going to experience for the first time. I I grew up with someone that lived in like the ghettos of Detroit, so I got to see that end of the world, how that end works at a young age. I've kind of lived in the States. I've lived in Canada. I've just seen too much to make me think this is gonna be happily ever after. You know what I mean? It's not. That's not how it works. The best ideal that I've ever seen in this life is freedom. Because at the end of the day, look, you only need government really for one thing. If you and I have a dispute, right, and we don't want everybody to just kill each other because that's not productive either.
Right.
You need
Right.
someone
Right.
from the outside to look in and go, okay, this is your dispute. This is your dispute. Let's work it out. Let's figure it out. Let's kind of keep this figured out and then come to a conclusion, right? You do that, and suddenly, right? That's what you need government for. The rest, dude,
Yeah.
I mean, keep making music. Speaking of which, you're in the punk scene, right?
Yeah.
So what do you play?
The guitar. The guitar. Yeah. I'm actually working on a punk documentary right now. Called Backyards, Bars, and Junkyards over here in LA. We actually got a sponsor for it, an investor for it. So you know how we do it, my friend. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
Thank
Really
you.
cool. So it's like what are you gonna do? Like a day in the life kind of documentary, or is it gonna be like a longer story you're telling?
It kind of evolved. Me, I'm kind of like a maverick figure. I try to work with everybody. I did. I try to work with everybody. But there's always one or two people that just are like, nope. They just have their own agenda, their own way of looking at things. And it goes back to what I was telling you. You got to be ready. You got to if you have kids, you got to teach them. You got to teach them how to fight up here. You got to teach them how to fight right here. Yeah.
Here most of all. You can learn this comes quickly. That takes a lifetime, right?
Yeah. And no matter what you try to do in this life, you want to get ahead. You're gonna step, but you got to break some eggs eventually. But as far as the documentary goes, it's evolved. It was a lot of it is based about the East LA scene, the South LA scene, bars, backyards. I've met people that were big in the 80s. They were like in those music videos in the 80s on MTV, and how they kind of evolved into doing their thing now. Barrio kids and where they're at now. I'm thinking about making it like me, the story of a maverick, just somebody who had a vision. We were fighting the elements. People were trying to sabotage what I was doing, but I don't give a shit. We're still going to do it anyways. Fuck it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I just I enjoy the how do I put this?
The son of a
Honesty.
bitchery.
Well, the honesty, dude.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want the storytelling bullshit. Hey, this is how big everybody. Look, you don't have to be ruthless at everything, right? You don't. But you have to have a little bit of ruthlessness to you. It's the nature of the world. Has been for as long as I've known it to be. So I say all that. I say all that because say that like, dude, you can be cantankerous. You don't have to get along with anybody if you don't want to. I mean, that's your cool thing, man. What's important, the most important thing is to be true to yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't bullshit yourself, right? About your situation. Be honest about who you are and who you're not, and just be that person, because that's all you can do at the end of the day. Shakespeare
Yeah,
said it best: above all else, to thine own self be true. He's right.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. People think I'm like this ass. People think I'm like this serious guy. I'm like, man, people must think I'm an asshole or something. But nah, yeah, I know it's not true. Yeah, it's not true. Yeah,
No, dude, you're somebody who wants something in life, and you recognize more than some people that there are sharks out there, right?
yeah.
And that's just the truth. Like, you just recognize that. So if you recognize that, uh, right, you decide that you would be this way to deal with it. Right now, only time will tell if this is the right way for you to do that. But if you're happy with what the result has been, who the fuck am I or anyone else to tell you different?
Right. But I
Right?
think I think every man has regrets, though. It's
Sure.
true. It's true. I'm sure you have regrets.
I okay, so this is my take on regrets. This is my take on regrets. I have made and will make plenty of mistakes in this life. Hundreds, thousands, whatever. I will make plenty of mistakes. I don't regret making those mistakes. Although I wish I hadn't hurt people a certain way, I don't regret the mistakes. I learned from those mistakes. I regret it if I keep making the same mistake. That's just me being an idiot. But
I got I got one. I got a sweet mistake. For you younger cats out there, all the little girlfriends you guys have, enjoy that. And because later on you're gonna be thankful for the good times you had with somebody. That's a sweet mistake. Just to show you Johnny Kahn isn't too much an asshole.
oh, every relationship I've had with the women, the women I've been with. For me, I think the part that I'm amazed of is the stuff I do remember the most. I mentioned this with one ex-girlfriend. The thing I remember the most was reading to her, of all things. Just it's a little thing, a little intimacy, but it went a very long way. Another one, I just remember this one scene. It was almost like a movie. Like, I actually understood what love could be, and I remember that, and I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Right? So those are the things you remember, and those are the things that you enjoy and you learn from, even though life goes on. You remember that those things, those people, those moments in time were truly precious, and I wouldn't change anything. You know what I mean?
Let's get corny for a while.
Sure.
What I is it's quote unquote love compatible with society today? I mean, the sad thing is, I have tried to get with. There's been a lot of partners that I try to get with, and because of they had their own ambitions, or maybe they didn't feel they were good enough, it just didn't happen. And I think if you want to be a complete person, you have to be ready to walk away, or you gotta be ready to give a commitment a chance. That's what I'm saying. Just be sure that you're good enough for anybody. Because I've walked out on relationships where I just didn't feel I was good enough for one reason or another.
That might be okay. So let's get deep into this particular thing. One of the biggest things I've learned with success, relationships, everything, when I get a good thing happen to me, right? Absolutely, Doris, be the partner you wish for. But when I get a great thing in my life and I'm thankful for it, I also ask, how can I keep it? Right? Because the important thing is, let's say I go back. I'm probably moving very shortly again back to a place I want to kind of be at for the next however long I can be there. But one of the reasons I'm moving back is there are people there that I have great connections. Well, that's the thing, Doris. You gotta figure out what those things are because for everybody it's different. Everybody it's a different thing. And the biggest question and for like when I got award for the podcast, it was how I did interviews. When I got reward for Alice Zero, it's how I did that story and how I'm doing the next story. And the thing is, right, when I realize I have weaknesses, I try to avoid them, but I try not to get that imposter system of I'm not good enough because that might be the biggest mind fuck you can ever do to yourself. Know what I mean? Right? You could possibly put yourself in a position where you have this really great thing, and you're like, oh my god, what do I do with it? Because we're used to shit. Great things are rare. Truly great things are absolutely rare treasures. Right? Now sometimes you really aren't for that person, and that's one thing. But the good enough thing, if I ever hear that in my head, I back off. Why ain't I good enough? Is it because of where I'm at in my social standing in life? Is it because of something I can do personally? Right? I back the fuck off from that kind of thinking because that thinking will cheat you out of great shit.
You know, I was thinking about it in the shower this morning. I forgot, but Napoleon Bonaparte, right? The man was what 5'5" or something. But sometimes your shortcomings can come a long way. Sometimes you might be short in stature, but your aura is epic. It's mammoth in proportions. You know, Alexander the Great's another man I admire. That movie they made about him, he said even if his failures were epic, they still towered over men's successes. You know, and sometimes
Absolutely.
just give it your best.
Well, failure is part of life too. Like right, failure is a big part of life. It's what you learn from it. But again, you're on this journey, whatever that journey is. The last thing you want to do is stop yourself when the great thing is about to happen. Right? I'm not good. No. Fuck that. Doesn't matter. What good enough is not a way you should think about that. The thing you should think about, I have this great thing. I can keep this great thing, maybe. But if I can't keep this great thing, I'm going to enjoy this while it's here. I'm not going to let it end because of me. I'm going to let it end because of it's time for it to go. And we all know when that's...
Yeah, we need to look at what we've accomplished and look at it with pride. You know, I mean, can you look back at your life and say that maybe you're not where you want it to be? Me, I'm not at the zenith of where I want to be yet. But in retrospect, by the time I was 30, I was already signed to a label. I already published my own book. I started acquiring a somewhat of a little gathering in the local scene. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but goddamn, from a kid that wasn't even born in this country, I'm more like, I've done okay, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, okay, right this minute, I'm in my grandma's house. I'm moving out. Like, finally getting to move on out of here. Here's the deal: published freelance. Got awards for my books, awards for my podcast. I've been traditionally published. I've been independently published. I've done fiction, nonfiction, comics. I've done podcasts. I've done video podcasts. I'm streaming now.
And you're a free man. And you're it doesn't seem you have I have no attachments really. I'm a free man. I always made the decision not to have kids. I mean, no offense if you did, but I always thought this is gonna be my life. I'm gonna be a go-getter. So I don't have kids yet. I want to one day, But you gotta temper it. You gotta temper ambition with responsibility.
Well, it's see. I don't know if there's a pro and con to that too, because kids would drive you even further because it's not about you anymore; it's about them, right? So it might actually push you. Like you talk about Napoleon, right? This was a guy. If you really sit there and look at him historically, was all about impressing a chick. If you really sit there and think about Napoleon, that's who he was. He was all about impressing a chick. With his first wife, he conquered the world. Literally conquered the known world. With his second wife, he lost it. Which goes to show you that a good person in your life can make you, and a bad one will fucking break you. The trick is recognizing the good and the bad. And the thing about relationships is, much like business, it's a filtration process. Some people you can theoretically work with anybody, but some people are not going to take you into the direction you want to go, while others will push you in directions you need to go and will make you better. The trick is finding that
observation. Yeah, that was an excellent observation. What is like Freud said too? What is it? The motivations of, I don't know if Freud said this, but what motivates man too? You know what? Eat, sleep, and the desire to procreate. It's very interesting that you said that, but that's true.
Well, there's the two biggest drives in men are this: impressing a chick doesn't change until you're like 60. Impressing a chick, and number two, right, is responsibility. We actually do well with responsibilities. Right. Even if it goes into an epic failure, it tends to push us into better positions as people. So those are the two big motivators, right? So this is where my argument, like, you can go both ways. So if you're with the wrong person, you're absolutely correct. A relationship will not work. But if you're with the right, like, okay, you're a Joe B trying to make it as a filmmaker and musician. Well, if your partner is a punk rock, wild ass, crazy woman that's into the same shit you are, shit, she might make you better. She'll probably see things in ways you won't, that will actually benefit you, and vice versa. The question is, here's the question for you, because this is what I feel about you. Are you willing to be trustworthy enough to give up some control in that situation? Because the thing about a relationship is you don't have full say in it. They have as much say as you do. So, and you have to be willing to give and take a little bit there as well. You're growing together, not apart.
That's the paradox of me as an individual. The shadow side comes out during the punk side, but a lot of the chaos that comes with it is I'm like, okay, I'll let it be. This is my shadow at play. But when it comes down to getting ahead, I do kind of like, if I do come across something that kind of like comes in conflict with me getting ahead of that, it usually gets cut off.
Yeah, but you're also a control freak, because it's one. Here's the thing about you. If you fuck up and it's on you, you're good with it. I mean, you'll be pissed at yourself that you fucked up, but let's be honest, right? I made the choice. There's no one else to blame. I'm a man. I'm man enough to acknowledge my shortcomings.
Right.
Somebody else in your life makes a choice and you go backwards because of it. That's not so easy for you to forgive. You don't know how necessarily to let that go. Even if in the case with that person, they might have been in a better position to deal with it than you are. Still, for you internally, it's like, well, I'm not in control. I didn't have a say. I didn't have the final say. And in a relationship, sometimes you don't. And that's what you got to accept in a relationship.
I've come across women like that, and that's probably why a guy like, it's probably why A-type personalities like to work out or focus on their job, because it gives them some kind of sense of control. That's probably what it is.
Control,
but you're right. Yeah.
control and discipline. It
Control and
keeps you in control and discipline. Now, again, that doesn't mean, again, there are things you can only accomplish so much on your own. This is the downside. On your own, you can only accomplish so much. With people in your life working with you, right? Exactly, Doris. Right? You're never gonna find that, right? But at the same token, right? At the same token, finding people to work with to help you and you help them. That's not necessarily like a love relationship either, but having people in your life do that you need that to get to the really, really upper echelons as well. That's why you see people form groups all the time.
Doris is right, though. It's true. It's true. I know. I've been asking myself too. As a man, I've done so much to get ahead. It's true. Your career isn't always gonna love you, but maybe the reason why men become this way is to have a sense of security and say, I can afford to fuck up later because I have the shelter, I have the money in the bank. Maybe that's what motivates us. But you're right.
That motivates you. That motivates you. But once you have all those things, then you're gonna ask yourself, well, why did I wait? Right. So this is there are trade-offs that you got to be willing to make. People in relationships. Now, I'm going to be honest. I think actually the generation underneath us does a better job with this than we do because we came from the broken home generation, right? They recognize that not every relationship necessarily lasts forever. That is something I think the death do us part thing is that doesn't always happen. We have our time with whoever we're with, and that's it. Now, for some people, that is a lifetime, but for most of us, it is whatever it's going to be.
Especially right now, till death do us part. Especially right now, my friend, isn't the kind of society where that's too feasible right now. I think. I don't think that's feasible.
I think it is, but not for the. Now, do you want me to get really cynical? I'll get really cynical for you right now.
Hey, I didn't expect you were to go that deep. I didn't expect you were to go that deep.
No, we're just talking, right? Right. But here's the deal, right? Usually, some couples stay together because of the amount of kids they have. There's a point. There's a song called "It's Cheaper to Keep Her." Right? There's actually a song called that, and vice versa. There comes a point to people settle. Just like I think the worst thing about life, and we're gonna get out of that. Go into this. Go to this point. I think the biggest temptation we have in life, no matter how far we go along in this journey, is to settle. Right? And that's career, that's relationship, that's every part of life. Hey, I got this hand. It's pretty good. I can walk. Sometimes you settle because you're happy. You are legitimately happy with where the journey takes you. But a lot of people settle because it's like, this is all they could get out of this. And well, I might as well settle for this because I may not get anything better. And I think there's a very big difference between both those two perspectives. But that's the world that's the world we live in, is that it's so hard to get anything worthwhile in this life today, even compared to what it was 20 years ago. It's the biggest temptation we have with relationships, with business, with career, with all these things is to settle.
Well, let's keep it 100% real. I mean, on a biological level, sure, a woman still wants a man. But like on a financial level, a woman doesn't really need a man anymore. And why would she? No. I mean, especially if you're a manly man, you're going to want to know, the reason for X and Y, If you look at the world as strictly energies, masculine and feminine, it seems like it's always changing between the sexes, I think it takes a very wise man. I'm coming wise to a lot of things, in my mid-30s right now. But you know what? I would much rather become whatever I was looking for at a later age than if I was younger. There's a lot of people reach a certain kind of success in their 20s and piss it all away,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Versus if you see some people that became more successful later in life, they know how to manage it better. You know.
Yeah, there's a maturity. Like, success is the hardest thing to temper, not
Yeah.
failure. Success,
Yeah.
right? Right? Because again, the biggest question we always have in the back of our head is, are we good enough? And that is our poison.
Hmm.
And if you can recognize that now, you'll be able to handle success later. This is why lottery winners piss it all away. This is
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. Not everybody's man. No, I don't want to say that, but there's some people that just don't manage it very well.
Well, the average lottery winner loses everything within 5 years, on
That makes
average.
sense. Yeah.
On
Yeah.
average, on average.
Or some sports figures too,
Oh,
boxers in
absolutely.
particular. Yeah.
It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
You get to that pinnacle, and you're like, now what, right?
Yeah.
And most people don't have an answer to that because it's like, well, I'm here. I got everything I could have ever possibly wanted. So instead of setting yourself up so that basically I can bullshit and do conversations, I'm trying to do this for a living because I think I'm good at it,
It's
right?
interesting though. You seem to have a certain aspect, meaning I came here and I kind of see myself listening more because a lot of what you're saying is pretty interesting. But get this, I've actually I've pondered my last minutes on this world. If I have that luxury, if I die an old man, I kind of do see my minutes winding down to the last minute. I do. I'll probably meditate the last couple of hours, kind of get ready. Memento mori. I mean, you should memento mori even now. You know, death might be right around the corner.
Mhm.
You know, I'm an old school guy, so I believe in honor. I believe in leaving a legacy or how people remember me when I'm gone. You know, a lot of guys don't have that. You know, and I think they should. But unfortunately, we can't have it all ways. You know, like you said, everything's a trade off. You know, we always gotta be aware of our last minutes because time is precious.
So I did this as a motivation on the weekend, and I'm going to just echo it here. Your greatest legacy will be your character, because the people who know you, the world might say Alexander the Great was an amazing figure, but to the people closest to him are the people that were impacted in his whole life. William Shakespeare, it's the same with Shakespeare, it's the same with Vinci, it's the same with Genghis Khan, right? As big of a monster as all these people were, at the end of the day, right? Like Kahn, Great, like all the big war guys. Julius Caesar was a scientist, he was an astronomer, right? Marcus Aurelius was a philosopher, very, very smart dude, right? Hadrian was an architect. Right, on top of being a leader, he was just a very smart man. Those were the real legacies, was their characters and how they impacted everybody around them. The reason we never talk about any, like, if you look at our leaders today, nobody's going to have anything good to say about them. And the reason why is because they're not even going to be remembered. They might be despised, right? Right? They might be remembered for a very short time, but then they're fading. Look,
What about the interesting thing is, I know you were around George W. Bush. It would have been a sin. What it 20 years ago? I mean, recently you had a picture of Ellen DeGeneres. I think it was Ellen DeGeneres. Don't quote me on this. Taking a picture with George W. Bush. If this was 20 years ago, people would have been like, "Oh my God!" I mean, people are shitting on Ellen DeGeneres anyways now. But I'm just saying, like on a political sense, 20 years ago, George W. Bush was something of a pariah. I think what you're saying is true, you know. But I just think it's interesting how people remember him in particular. You know, 20 years ago, people hated George W. Bush. You know, a lot of people did.
well, I did. I still don't think he was great, but I
Yeah,
also
yeah, yeah.
think I also think he's better. And I hate to say this, he's better than what's here, right? And that's a very sad commentary on just on leadership, because I don't think he had great character either. But we're not going to remember Clinton or Nixon or Ford or Carter or Reagan or H.W. Bush, right? We're not going to remember those people because their characters did not preclude them to remember. We remember C.S. Lewis because we don't remember him for his books. We remember him for the fact that he was reading what would become Mere Christianity during the height of London being bombed. We remember William Shakespeare because he was performing plays right when the printing press came out. He was a pioneer doing things never been done. He was a champion of treatment of actors, right? And the people around him he worked with, right?
I think it's very interesting. All these people that you mentioned, going back to what we were earlier talking about, every celebrated man has a dark side. It's very interesting. Martin Luther King. I think I think some historians say he was a womanizer. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. True.
Well, no, for him, I mean, look, as far as Martin Luther King Jr. goes, one of the most charismatic speakers of modern history. I Have a Dream is a beautiful speech, but he struggled. I think that makes him more human. Mahatma Gandhi stopped a revolution, but he also, I was
about to mention him,
yeah, or he also basically let his I think it was wife die because he wouldn't let him do her operation on her. So I mean, like we all have dark side, but at the end of the day, it's our character that is truly our legacy.
I think it's what Jordan Peterson says. Sometimes what is it? Being a nice guy and being a hero are two different things. You need those dark traits. You need, dark traits.
Oh no, you need dark traits. We all have them. But again, it's being true to your character, of who you can be, right? We have both. We aren't animals. We aren't angels. We're both. And to get to be a better human being, you have to have both angel and animal aspects.
The interesting thing about Alexander the Great is I think a lot of people in the other part of the world refer to him as a butcher. He also did his quote unquote things, but sometimes your achievements do overshadow your quote unquote lower nature or whatever.
Sometimes. Well, again, you want to talk like the most biggest monster of the 20th century was Adolf Hitler. People know he loved his dog. Didn't love anybody else, but loved his dog, right? I mean, people know this about him, right? We're all human beings.
We're all human beings.
Right, at the end of the day, we're gonna walk.
Sometimes at the end. What about Stalin? Probably even worse than Hitler, but probably because he had a chance to write the winning text, the winning history books. People don't remember him as much of a monster as Hitler, but Stalin was probably even worse than Hitler.
Yeah,
in so many ways.
Oh no, in a lot of ways. You make a very compelling case. I think the death toll in the shorter period of time though went to Hitler.
What did Stalin say? One death is a statistic, but a million is a. He said something really interesting.
One death is a tragedy. A million is a statistic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It really is.
God damn, getting profound on just joshing.
It happens quite a bit actually. Ask Doris. Well, Johnny, I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's pretty deep. I'm probably gonna go to the park bench right now and just reflect on life.
Yeah, it's good. I'm glad I put some thoughts into you. We talked a little bit of everything, right? So, what's coming up for you?
I'm still working on that documentary. That's probably coming up. My band's getting back together. Just the hustle, man. That's what I'm all about.
What's your band called?
I'm just Johnny Kahn, even here on a local level. Yeah,
how can people find you?
On Facebook at your local strip club. Nah. Johnny Kahn on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
It is just Johnny Kahn?
Just Johnny Kahn.
Okay. No webpage or anything like that for people to get your stuff?
I'm all over the place. Yeah, just Google Johnny Kahn. You'll find my Amazon. You'll find me on Amazon. My book, The Way of the Tiger Man. You'll find me on Instagram, the website, johnnycahn.net. I'm all over the place. Just Google it. Bam, I'm there.
All right. I got some. So, on that note, everybody, thanks for this wonderful interview. Stick around, Johnny. I'll talk to you a little bit after the show. Before I wrap up, I just want to thank everybody for watching and listening. Please hit the subscribe button on my Twitch or my YouTube channel, Joshua Pill. Alice Zero is currently nominated for the Elgin Award. I'll be hearing that announcement hopefully very soon. If I won or not on that, Alice 1 comes out November 1st. To the rest, to everybody out there, this has been another episode. Tomorrow, I've got Dustin Burnell on the show. I got a very unique interview actually coming up on Wednesday. My guest is both deaf and blind. It's going to be a very interesting little interview I'm going to try to do on Wednesday. And Friday, I got Andy Barnett coming back for some more. But for everybody watching and listening, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And stay inspired. Keep making beautiful things out there. And I will be back tomorrow at this time. All right, guys. Take care of yourselves.